is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back, everybody. This is GB News. Up next, it's The Late Show Live with superstar Ben Leo from Washington, D.C. Ben, what a day it's been. Prince Andrew being encouraged to come to America. I mean, I'd be happy to get rid of him, frankly.
Yeah, he's... sorry, I was laughing, Alex, because you very generously always describe me as a superstar, and I love it. Thank you so much for that. It just makes me giggle every time. Yes, Prince Andrew is being urged by Republicans and Democrats in Congress to get on a plane at Heathrow, come to Washington, D.C. and testify in the Capitol about the Jeffrey Epstein situation. He's not being forced to come. He's not being subpoenaed. They don't have that power, but it adds to the headache that Prince Andrew is currently experiencing. Of course, he's at risk of being kicked out of Great Windsor Park. He's given up his titles as well. There could be an inquiry into how he's affording the rent. Lots of our viewers, though, Alex, seem to really support Prince Andrew. They're saying, look, he's not being found guilty of anything. He's not admitted to anything. And actually, they put some blame, some viewers, I've read comments tonight, on his accusers. So it's an interesting debate. But he is being asked to come to Washington, D.C. to give evidence. I don't think he will. I think the best thing Andrew could do now is get his head down, maybe even leave Royal Lodge and go to Verbier or somewhere up, or the Alps, and just stay out of the limelight for a while. Elsewhere, Alex, we're setting records, aren't we, for migrants, illegal migrants in the UK. Another couple of hundred arriving on our shores today. In the US, though, I'm afraid to say we're setting other kinds of records, or at least on track to. President Trump, since January, has either deported or voluntarily encouraged 2 million illegal migrants to leave the country. That includes 500,000 who have been forcibly kicked out. So it just goes to show, if you've got a little bit of political will, some authenticity, some intent, you can get the job done if you want to. And finally, Alex and viewers and listeners, not sure if you saw in PMQs today when Keir Starmer and Labour went for not just Reform UK, but our old friend, our old colleague, Alex, Darren Grimes. He wasn't name-checked, but they name-checked Durham County Council, saying that the council was being run like a clown show, like a circus. Darren, of course, he left GB News to become the deputy leader of Durham County Council. Anyway, Darren's on my show very shortly to respond to Keir Starmer's attacks, and it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. Do you miss Darren, Alex? Or are you enjoying the Saturday 5 chair?
I was just going to say, we just need a couple more people. We can do like a late version of the Saturday 5 with Darren. It would be great to have him back. I do really miss his sense of humour. I mean, he was always so funny. So I'll be definitely tuning in to watch that. It'll be bombshell TV, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, indeed. Alex, thank you very much. Big 2 hours coming up on The Late Show Live. All that and more. Let's get stuck in. Let's go. Hello, very good evening to you on The Late Show Live tonight.
Do you regret the whole friendship with Epstein?
Now, still not.
Oh, it just gets worse, doesn't it? Prince Andrew ordered to Congress. Huge breaking news tonight from the United States. The Duke is being urged to testify in front of US lawmakers over the Epstein scandal. Both Democrats and Republicans have urged the Prince to step forward and board a flight to America. Will he do it? Also tonight.
It's absolutely right to point out, as voters in Durham can see, what you get if you vote Reform is total chaos and broken promises.
Reform UK skewered in the Commons again, not least by the Prime Minister. Keir Starmer targeting Durham County Council and its Reform leadership, including, of course, ex-GB News star turned Deputy Council Leader Darren Grimes. Darren joins me live shortly to try and set the record straight. And Smash the Gang's disaster. Breaking news tonight. 220 migrants crossed the Channel illegally today into England, taking the total for the year to just shy of 40,000. And of course, the PM's sham one-in, one-out deal with France has already fallen apart too. Meanwhile, I'm afraid to say, in the US, 2 million illegals have either been kicked out or voluntarily left since Trump took charge in January, including 500,000 who have been forcibly removed. We'll also be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, hours before they hit the shelves, including what we can expect from the King and Queen's historic state visit to Rome. There's the King a bit earlier today, and Her Majesty. It marks a significant moment for the Church of England and indeed the Catholic Church too. And of course, we're live in Washington DC, just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this one. Wouldn't blame President Trump for his patience wearing thin over Putin either, because Russia today has refused to accept America's terms for a ceasefire. Well, that was me speaking last night, and breaking tonight, the Trump administration must have been listening to The Late Show Live, because they've just announced new sanctions targeting Russia's 2 largest oil companies.
I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions, and sanctions on oil.
And if you thought Sadiq Khan in London was bad, get a load of this guy.
There are many parades that I would not be attending because I'd be focusing on the work of leading this city.
Which parades?
A number of them. I've already missed a number of those parades because I've been trying to speak to as many New Yorkers as possible.
The New York City mayoral candidates face their final debate tonight, including the hugely controversial commie Zoran Mandami. To say the last debate was bizarre is an understatement. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and your night's just getting started. Hello, good evening to you. Thank you for your company. It's been the week from hell for Prince Andrew, hasn't it? Exposed as a liar, his accuser's memoir published from beyond the grave, the loss of his titles, and I reckon soon to be kicked out of Royal Lodge. It's just got a little bit worse though. US lawmakers are now urging Randy Andy to hop on a plane to America and testify in Congress as part of an investigation into his old paedophile pal, Jeffrey Epstein.
Congressman, would you consider inviting Prince Andrew to speak to your committee?
We would be extremely interested in hearing from Prince Andrew regarding his involvement in all of this, yes.
Will you issue that invitation then?
We will, I'm sure.
Yes, members of the House Oversight Committee, the main investigative committee of the US House of Representatives, well, they believe Prince Andrew will be asked shortly to give evidence once the government shutdown here in DC comes to an end. Just as some context, the Oversight Committee is currently examining newly released documents linked to pedo Jeffrey Epstein, documents which, of course, amongst others, mention the Prince. Meanwhile, it doesn't get much better for Andrew in the UK either, because Sir Keir Starmer's backing calls for a parliamentary inquiry into Andrew's housing agreement at Royal Lodge.
Mr. Speaker, given the revelations about Royal Lodge, does the Prime Minister agree that this House needs to properly scrutinise the Crown Estate to ensure taxpayers' interests are protected? The Chancellor herself has said that the current arrangements are wrong. So will the Prime Minister support a select committee inquiry so all those involved can be called for evidence, including the current occupant?
Prime Minister. Well, it's important in relation to all properties, Crown properties, that there is proper scrutiny. I certainly support that.
And this week it was revealed Prince Andrew was staying at Royal Lodge in Great Windsor Park for free, not a penny paid, on the 30-room mansion for some 2 decades. All right, for some, eh? Well, let's get the take of editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Charlotte, good evening. Thank you for your company. It does just get worse for Andrew. Another headache. He's not being forced to come to the US. He's not being subpoenaed, but Congress want him to come. What's your take?
You're right, he's not being forced to come, but of course he probably won't go, and it will be yet another embarrassing saga for him, because I'm like you said this before the break, I mean, I just don't think he'll do it. He's burying his head in the sand. Apparently he's pretty much barricaded himself into Royal Lodge. The chances of him getting on that flight from Heathrow and doing what he should do, which is helping the victims to work through their experience, share what he saw during his time with Epstein. He may say he's completely innocent of everything he's been accused of, but what is for sure is that he took several massages from Epstein, that there are flight logs showing he took 4 flights on the Lolita Express. So I think it would be the right thing to do to explain to the victims what he saw and help them piece together how it worked. And that would be really valuable to them, and it would make amends for his Newsnight interview, during which he showed no sympathy at all for the victims. However, what are the chances of him doing that? I think it's very slim.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see him land at Washington Dulles and then get a car down to Congress. And, you know, if his Newsnight interview was anything to go by, I'd probably, if I was advising Andrew, I'd say stay the hell away from Congress. You seemingly can't, or you're unable to communicate, you know, in public properly without putting your foot in it. Charlotte, I want to talk to you about the public perception of Andrew, because there's been lots of support on gbnews.com/yoursay, on the inbox over the past 3 or 4 or 5 nights. Lots of people, I'd say the majority actually, saying leave Andrew alone. He's not been found guilty of anything, even going as far to say his accusers and people who were involved in Epstein weren't maybe the victims they are making out to be. What's your take on that? Are you seeing that same kind of support for Andrew?
Well, what I would say is that people that I know, sources, are starting to genuinely worry about his mental health. And although I think he does deserve a lot of scrutiny, it has been day after day after day for best part of 2 weeks now. And I wouldn't want it to get so far that, you know, something bad happens to him. And we know Princess Beatrice went to visit him the other day. And I think that's because he is in a bad place. And I don't have sympathy for him, but I just would be aware that when the pylon is this intense, it's coming from every angle. As you say, he's now got pressure from America, he's got pressure from Parliament, he's got pressure from his family. It is a lot for one human being to take. And many people might say, well, he deserves it. But I am hearing just the odd voice saying, God, I hope he's going to be okay. And he's, you know, because we haven't heard really from him other than that statement. Although I would say the statement was quite bombastic. I have to say, I haven't heard anyone accusing the victims of being in the wrong. That's news to me, and not something I personally agree with. Having read bits of Virginia's book, you know, I thought that was really quite shocking, and actually reminded me that this is about the victims and not just about Andrew and the lodge and the titles.
Yeah, just for the record, Charlotte, I have absolutely no sympathy with Andrew whatsoever. I was actually quite surprised at the influx of support that he's had from, well, lots of our viewers. Basically, there's one here now from Carl on Your Say saying, whatever happens to innocent until proven guilty, we should wait for the Andrew inquiry before calling him the Duke of Porkies. That's a good one, Carl. I like that. But I have no sympathy whatsoever, regardless of whether he's been found guilty or not. And he, of course, he denies all allegations. He's now been proven to have lied in that Newsnight interview. So, as a royal, as a fairly senior royal in the grand scheme of things, that for me is enough that he deserves the pressure and deserves the flag.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for example, he had the Order of the Garter until literally last week, and it's the highest order of chivalry in the land. Whether you care about these things or not, one thing's for certain, he certainly did, because in his letter to Epstein, where he says we shall play again soon, he signs it off KG for and Order of the Garter, and just things like that. He is actually a member of the royal family. He obviously cares about chivalry, and yet he's shown very little. For example, he's lied. He's obviously been very sort of rude and boorish in public, very dismissive in the Newsnight interview. This isn't really how a member of the royal family should be behaving, because they're supposed to be setting an example to the rest of the country. So I think on that, he's obviously guilty, and obviously guilty of lying. And, the fact he paid the settlement has always made people assume the worst, it has to be said.
Yeah, although that said, I believe, again, I'm going to cause some controversy here, I believe Michael Jackson was innocent, and yet he paid out money as well, so maybe that's another conversation. Just finally, Charlotte, you mentioned Prince Andrew. Sources are telling you that he's really feeling the pressure, he's under a bit of mental health strain. How, as far as you understand or know, how are the family reacting? Is the King there supporting him? Dare I say Prince William, has he had a change of tune, a change of heart towards his uncle?
No, not really. I think that's the problem. He's being stonewalled by a lot of his family. Possibly even his own daughters are finding it very difficult to work out how to communicate with him at the moment. A lot of his friends have dropped him. I mean, actually, nearly all of his friends have dropped him. And he is, of course, he's basically barricaded himself in Royal Lodge. And as of today, when it was discussed in Parliament, it looks like the game is really up on that Royal Lodge debate. He's been able to say he's got a cast iron lease all along, but now there's going to be scrutiny. It just seems very unlikely he's going to be able to keep hold of it. So it does seem like he's sort of homeless on top of everything else.
Has he still? I'll let you go in a second, Charlotte. Sorry, I appreciate your time. You've been very generous. Has he still got the place in Verbier, the ski resort, the lodge, or did he sell that?
The last I heard was that he sold it. And it was very controversial as well, because nobody could quite work out, as usual with Andrew, where the money had gone. And he's just sold his, he sold his Belgravia mansion as well for £4 million a couple of months ago, below market rate, also slightly suspicious. And I was told he was reinvesting that money into other properties. So I do wonder whether he's bought himself somewhere. But he definitely wants to stay pretty reclusive at the moment, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah. All right, Charlotte, thank you very much. Editor-at-Large at The Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. I'm looking forward to seeing your paper and whatever you've got in store for us on Sunday. Thank you, Charlotte. Right, quick Your Says, gbnews.com/Your Say. Thank you for all your comments. Lynn, you've said, Ben, I'm sorry, but I cannot get beyond my feeling that Andrew is just a spoilt, self-entitled little boy, and he thought of himself as someone invincible and able to do exactly what he wanted. Of course, again, Andrew denies all wrongdoing and even knowledge that he'd met Virginia Giuffre. And Jackie, you've said, Sheila, good evening, Sheila. You've said, you can see why his mother, the Queen, wanted to protect him. He's a liability, native in his own little Prince bubble. Thank you for those. Let's bring in my panel now. The Executive Director at Unleash Prosperity, Tim Doscher, and the Foreign Correspondent and Journalist, Sarah Firth. Good evening, panel. Sarah, start with you ladies first. Do you think Andrew's going to get on a plane and come to DC and testify in Congress?
I think he probably should, if he wants to clear his reputation and address these allegations that he's just not being transparent, he's not being truthful about this. Will he, though, Ben? It's unlikely. As you pointed out, there is that legal and diplomatic wrinkle in that he can't be compelled as a British citizen living in the UK to come and testify in any way.
Do you not think his reputation's too far gone? I mean, do you think it's salvageable at this point?
I don't think it's salvageable, but I think the ongoing damage to the wider royal family that is caused as a result of the perception of him not being transparent, not being honest, and the continuation of this story around Jeffrey Epstein and his ties, I think there is a risk of this continuing to harm the rest of the royal family. And certainly polling has sort of shown, the Jeffrey Epstein story here in the United States, that's not going away, Ben. There is huge interest from the American public about it. The majority of Americans want the full release of the Epstein files. I thought it was really interesting what Charlotte was saying there. She's absolutely right that there is a focus on the victims now and of what they've gone through. So I think talks of Prince Andrew's mental health issues are real for all of us, but empathy is not the same as exemption. He has some very serious questions to answer. He's not being hounded for having a bad day. He's being asked to answer to his ties to one of the most grotesque criminal networks in modern times, Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking ring, and he's retreated behind palatial walls and carefully curated press statements, and it won't do.
I don't have much sympathy for him, but lots of our viewers do, though. They're saying he's been innocent until proven guilty. He's not been found guilty of anything.
But then he has to answer the questions to prove his innocence.
I'm sorry. We're talking about his mental health and how we're concerned about him. Well, I'm really concerned about the victims of the people that he has been tied to. Not saying that he's been convicted of anything, but at the same time, look, actions have consequences, and who you affiliate with has consequences. As my dad used to say, Tim, you play in the snake pit, you're going to get bit. And that is exactly what he's facing right now. There are consequences. And so I don't feel bad at all. But if he comes to America, he should know that the U.S., by and large, loves the crown. We love the royal crown here in the United States of America. But what we don't like is we don't like it when you make the royal crown look bad, but you also conspire with bad people.
And also,
that's a bad position.
Yeah, indeed. And it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's the Republican firebrand who's sitting on this oversight committee, one of the politicians, I was about to say MP, politicians, who was asking Andrew to come over here, also the Democrats as well. But it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is interesting as a Republican, who's leading this rally, this rallying cry for the Epstein files to be released, isn't it? Which goes against kind of the MAGA and President Trump's administration.
I think the president is very confident in his relationship with the United Kingdom, as well as those trade deals and all the other things that we're joining together with them with. I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene sees an inroad here to get more out of the Epstein files. I'm not so sure it's a good use of time, or we'll find anything out, or if Prince Andrew will come. But I do think that there is more to learn and there is more to say, and that's why it's coming up.
Sarah, can I read you some comments here on your side? I want to get your take on it. So Robert Jones has said, well done, everybody. Bashing someone who's already almost dead. I think you're talking about Andrew. I hope none of you have ever made a mistake in your whole life. And Robert has said again, Ben, you would tell a white lie in the same situation as Prince Andrew. He had no choice but to protect himself and the institution under immense undignified pressure from ruthless media. Give him a break instead of jumping on the virtue signalling bandwagon. Robert, let me just address that because you've named me. I wouldn't have been sleeping with a 17-year-old traffic girl in the first place. But what about his first comment saying give him a break? He's almost dead.
Guys, come on. You can't. Again, he is being accused, and although he denies all the allegations, he's clearly involved in this to a degree, and he needs to answer some of those questions. He's been proven to have lied.
He lied.
Yeah, he did. Let's say it. I agree.
You lose the ability to get sympathy when you're a known liar. You lose credibility.
Yeah, and that is true. We know that is true.
Yeah, he's never taken responsibility for that lie either. So I'm sure if you've done something wrong, Ben, you probably take responsibility for it. So you can, well, maybe. I don't know.
Ask my wife that. I don't think she'd agree. Right, thank you both. Still ahead on The Late Show Live.
He literally has never had a job. On his resume, it says he interned for his mother. This is not a job for a first-timer.
Well, that could apply to half the Labour cabinet, no? Anyway, the commies are coming, the commies are coming. New Yorkers head to the polls on November the 4th. Democratic Socialist Zohan Mamdani faces Republican Curtis Sliwa, and Andrew Cuomo is back as well, running as an independent after losing in the primary. If you thought Sadiq Khan was bad, get a load of Mamdani. Anyway, but first...
Would the Prime Minister agree that if Reform can't run one county council, they certainly can't run Scotland, Wales or our United Kingdom?
Reform under fire and even being name-checked by Keir Starmer in PMQs, with MPs complaining that the County Council in Durham, run by Reform, has cancelled major local events, including Durham Pride. Deputy Council Leader in Durham, Darren Grimes, former friend of the show, GB News star, joins me live next. Back in just a tick.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time to make a deal. A lot of people are dying. You know, they're not Americans, but they're people. They're souls, and they're dying by the thousands. Worst since World War II.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. That, of course, was US President Donald Trump speaking about the Ukraine situation after slapping sanctions on Russia tonight. I get the feeling he's slowly turning the screw after losing patience with Vladimir Putin. More on that shortly. But elsewhere today, it was another day of attacks towards Reform UK, surprise, surprise, by Labour in Prime Minister's Questions. Take a look.
Would the Prime Minister agree that if Reform can't run one county council, they certainly can't run Scotland, Wales or our United Kingdom?
Well, he's absolutely right to point out, as voters in Durham can see, what you get if you vote Reform is total chaos and broken promises. Mr. Speaker, councils have a vital role in our communities, and it's not just Durham where Reform are doing real. I think 4 councillors in Kent have just been suspended for bringing the party into disrepute. I mean, that is, bring the party into disrepute is quite something for a party whose Welsh leader accepts Russian bribes to spread Putin's propaganda.
All right, well, that was Labour MP Alan Strickland attacking Reform's record on Durham County Council since Reform took over. Since taking office in Durham, Reform have slashed the net zero emergency declaration. They've cut funding for Durham Pride, sounds good, and cancelled its Lumery Festival, saving millions of pounds a year for taxpayers. Let's get the thoughts now of Reform UK councillor, the deputy leader at Durham, Darren Grimes, former star of GB News, friend of the show. So, Darren, you were pretty much almost name-checked in PMQs today. Starmer saying that Durham's an absolute clown show. You're here, you're staying up late. Thank you for your time to set the record straight. What do you have got to say to our dear Prime Minister?
Ben, listen, all I can say about this Labour MP that I've never heard of is that his head is so far up Starmer's backside. I can only hope that Starmer is charging him rent. Listen, he's brown-nosing, right? He's brown-nosing Starmer in a gold-gilded chamber in Westminster. And we here in Durham, we're dealing with a £70 million black hole left by a Labour administration and a Lib Dem administration as well. We're focused on people, Ben. The priorities that you mentioned there are not the priorities of the Westminster elite. And there's a reason for that. They don't agree with the priorities of the people. You mentioned some of them, but scrapping that net zero emergency. So we ensure that your taxpayer cash isn't going on these net zero projects. You know, we're talking about the satisfying actual rejection of wasteful woke ideology as well through DEI training. I would argue, Ben, that that actual training says that a son of a miner or a steel worker, that their skin, the colour of their skin, means that they are privileged in some way. That, to me, is an absolute poison, and it ought to be rejected in the strongest possible terms. I've been up since the early hours of this morning, Ben, actually passing a free speech amendment to Durham County Council's constitution. And I tell you why that matters. There's a opposition politician, not on our side of the chamber, who actually was taken a task for, and you'll remember this, I know you will, a member of the acting class who was on the BBC during our, I believe it was actually our late Majesty's the Jubilee celebrations, Platinum Jubilee, I should say, who actually looked at the balcony and said that it was terribly white. Do you remember that? Terribly white. This councillor was hauled over hot coals for saying that. I've passed a free speech amendment. The Liberals, so-called Liberals, couldn't handle it. Labour in the House of Commons today absolutely going to hell on us for actually delivering what we said we would. They ought to try it, Ben, to be honest with you.
So are you saving money for taxpayers then? How much have you saved from the budget, from the deficit, and what is the black hole? Do you need to save even more money, and how are you going to do that? And I guess you just strenuously deny Starmer's claims that reform in Durham is setting the tone for reform nationally.
If reform in Durham is setting the tone nationally, we will receive the biggest majority that this country has ever seen. We have saved well over £20 million. There is more to do there. There is a waste deal that Richard Tice has talked about on this very channel that is saving local authorities in the northeast of England maybe over £100 million. We did that.
Yeah, but Dan,
we
Adam
came
Strickland
in,
said you've cancelled Pride. You can't cancel Pride, you bigot.
Listen, redirecting cash to kids over pronoun parades, I couldn't give a flying flamingo about them, Ben. I really couldn't. Labour have kicked the can down the road on actually caring for our kids. We'll have a special educational needs crisis throughout local government. It's not just limited to Durham. And guess what, Ben? Today, they announced that that decision is going to be moved to next year. So we're being told in local authorities to cut, all because the Education Secretary, as you well know, is standing to be Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. So they're kicking the can down the road for our kids in care, but they're saying it's all right because Labour have bigger priorities, such as the leadership election, because of Angie Rayner and her, you know, more than generous tax affairs.
OK, Darren, I appreciate your time. You've been very generous, especially after having been up in the early hours. If viewers could see my WhatsApp messages to you earlier this evening begging you to come on, they'd probably have a bit of a giggle. Just one last question. Have you heard from Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, anybody on the progress you're making in Durham as a county council? What's the scorecard so far from the bosses at Reform?
Oh, absolutely. Richard Tice just today has been made Doge father. He is now the head of Doge, our local government efficiency programme drive. And he will be coming to Durham, that I've no doubt. He has been on the phone. He has been absolutely active within what we're doing on Durham. He's proud as punch of what we've actually delivered. You know, that £70 million deficit that we're facing, it's unavoidable because the government kicks the can down the road. But there are other savings that we can make, and fundamentally, Ben, what I would say is reform. We're here for the people. Labour's here for the politics, and brown-nosing Sir Keir Starmer, we actually get on with the job of fundamentally of delivery, whilst they're dithering and talking about, I don't know, spending cash on the Chagossians over actually County Durham. I know where my priorities lie, Ben.
Yeah. Darren Grimes, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Deputy Leader at Durham County Council, of course, run by Reform. Sweet dreams. Get yourself some rest. Thank you, Darren. Let's bring in my panel now. The Executive Director at Unleash Prosperity, Tim Dosha, and the Foreign Correspondent, superstar journalist, Sarah Firth. You were nodding your head there, Tim, in much agreement. Are you familiar with Reform in the UK and Durham County Council as well?
Well, look, I am familiar with the difference between bad governance and good governance. Yeah. And it's funny when the left always says that we're in chaos, when people on the right begin to claw back the power that the radical leftists have taken from them, and they start to give it back to the people in the form of lower taxes, in the form of less regulations, in the form of better business climate, and yet somehow it's chaos. Yeah. It's just hilarious how they do that, and I think that the fortitude is extremely impressive with Reform.
So one of, Sarah, one of Labour's main barbs today at Reform in Prime Minister's Questions was the fact that Darren Grimes' council in Durham, the county council, they cancelled a Pride event. And Claudette has said on your say, kind of hard to take a gay councillor to task over cancelling a Pride event. Good for you, Darren, for spending taxpayers' money more wisely. Is that the kind of thing you want to see from a county council, cancelling Pride events and other events to save cash?
Well, I mean, the optics of that aren't great, but I think the Labour attacks are showing their nervousness, frankly, over Reform and the impact that they're having with the public. And, yeah, you know, Labour have every right to be worried right now, I think.
Yeah, it was interesting they've targeting now county councils and Reform-run authorities, because instead of just going for Nigel Farage, who, I don't know if you saw today, he said he's not going to attend Prime Minister's Questions again because he can never answer any of the attacks they throw at him. Did you see that?
But they have to bring in more faces to villainize. And so if you only have one and he's very disciplined in his messaging, which from my perspective, it does seem like Nigel Farage is very disciplined in his messaging, then you got to bring others in so they trip up, and then you have your wedge to get in there. And I think that politically, it's probably a smart move for their opposition.
Had you seen that chap, Darren Grimes, before? Have you heard of him?
I have not, no.
What did you think of him as a speaker?
Seems like he's pretty... You're talking about the MP that we were just interviewing.
Yeah, he's not an MP, he's a councillor. But
councillor, sorry, yeah, councillor. Seems like he's being groomed for the big times, and and it's going to be fun to see what he does on a national and international stage.
Got a good turn of phrase. Couldn't give a flaming flamingo.
Could you?
I'll be taking that one.
I was worried about what he was going to say then. Could you understand his accent, Tim?
100%.
Yeah, that's a Geordie accent. So he's from the northeast of England. Anyway, great stuff. Tim, Sarah, thank you. Coming up next on The Late Show Live.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order.
Well, says it all, doesn't it? The one-in, one-out disaster, the scheme has come apart at the seams, and while we're setting records in the UK, President Trump in America is setting records of a different kind. Massive deportation numbers being revealed today. Back in a tick on The Late Show Live.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You have the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Ben Leo. Let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages hitting the shelves tomorrow, starting with the Metro. It's going to be the same story, actually, on most of these papers. One in, one out, and then back again. This, of course, is the farce of Keir Starmer's one in, one out migrant scheme. Just an absolute joke. It's a clown show. We kicked one guy out. He was probably one of, 30 people we've managed to deport. Well, what did he do? He came back in again. The Guardian, fresh turmoil as candidate for chair quits toxic grooming gang inquiry. This, again, another farce. It's the grooming gang inquiry, which is collapsing at the very foundations. The iPaper, raise income tax, Rachel Reeves urged, as Labour budget splits emerge. No inspiration, no ideas, no motivation, no mojo, no idea how to make money or encourage the nation to get off its feet and pull itself up from the bootstraps. Nope, let's just tax everybody to high hell. The Telegraph tomorrow, one in, one out, and back again. The New York Times tomorrow. The US struggles to break out from China's grip on rare earths. The Trump admin is trying an array of unconventional measures to shore up US rare earth supplies. It remains uncertain whether the strategy will work. They did just sign a big deal with Australia, I think, yesterday for rare earth minerals. The Washington Post. Trump has claimed millions from the government. He could order payment. Apparently, there's a story about how President Trump has claimed he was damaged by investigations and he wants compensation. He's quoted as saying, "It sort of looks bad. I'm suing myself," he acknowledged. Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/yoursay. GB News star comedian Stephen Allen is down the line from London to go through the newspapers. Steve, good morning to you. What would you like to talk about? I guess there's only one main story on much of the front pages, but what do you want to get stuck into, Steve?
Yeah, let's do it, because it's at least mathematically a very funny story. Not funny if you're actually thinking about border security, but one in, one out. I mean, they never should have called it that in the first place, because look at the mess. And it is a mess. You can tell it's a mess, because even like the Guardian's coverage and the Metro, no one's finding a positive spin to this, because you can't do anything other than say, this is a bit of a catastrophe, isn't it? As if they didn't spot this coming. It seems like they had no plan when we've had someone who's deported back to France, who's now made it back over in a small boat, again, leaving all of those questions dangling. Does that mean that whoever was sent over here in the one in, one out to him, do they now have to go back to make it balanced? If we send this guy back? Do they have to send another one this way? Which actually could be the big Ponzi scheme that is one in, one out. You just send the same guy on some loop and eventually we can empty France. So look, it's a failing system, isn't it? And it's always set up that way. One in, one out. Let's actually do the stats, because we've got the other front pages saying that we've now hit a record. We've beat last year's number of crossings. So it's not one in, one out. It's 36,886 in, 42 out, but one back in. Now, I've not done the maths on that, but that is way off one in, one out, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to be a mathematician to know it absolutely stinks, Steve. And also, just to rub it in, this side of the pond, President Trump is on track to break records for deportations. 2 million illegals have left the country, either forcibly or voluntarily, since he took office in January, including 500,000 forcible deportations. So, whilst President Trump is about to break records for kicking out illegals, we're setting records of the other kind. And also, Steve, I don't want to blow my own trumpet. I'm sure many other people were saying the same thing. But when this one in, one out scheme came along some months ago, I was still in London, I asked the question, it seemed an obvious question, well, what's going to happen to the migrants who we do kick out and then are released in France? Surely they're just going to be running back to Calais, to the border, and trying again. I don't know why the government never considered this could actually happen.
Well, it's because the kind of people we're talking about, if we know anything about them, we know that they have been in France and have made it from France to the UK. Who would have thought that they could make it somehow from France to the UK again? It's like literally the one demographic of people who've got some practice at this. But, I mean, just to be fair to the UK, in America, yes, you've managed to successfully defend that border, but our border isn't as easy to defend. It's miles wide and made of water. Actually, it should be a lot easier to defend, shouldn't it?
Yeah, Steve, exactly. That is the point. I went down to the border at Arizona a few weeks ago, or a month ago, whenever it was, and it was tough to manage. Also, President Biden wasn't giving law enforcement the facilities and the power to stop migrants. Sometimes they were catching them and had to let them go. It was a complete farce. But I hear the argument, Steve, that having the English Channel, or being an island at least, is much harder to stop illegal migrants. No, it's not. You've got a giant moat around you. How's that harder?
Yeah, it shouldn't be, should it? I mean, all it needs is for it to be correctly policed. And we did hear, as soon as Labour came in, there was talk of these extra super special powers being given to the border police, that they were going to have counter-terrorism style levels of abilities. But it doesn't seem to have worked. There's that, and there's the, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but all of that talk of smashing the gangs. It doesn't look like they've been smashed, or if they've not smashed the ones that were doing the work by the looks of it. Do you know what I mean? Clearly we can see there's more smashing to be done. The only area where we could say there's been some success is they wanted to get rid of the problem of small boats, and now the boats that we see are absolutely huge. So in some way, they've solved that.
Yeah, Steve, it's if I don't laugh, I'll cry. You may raise a great point about all the cliches. You know, one in, one out, one back again, 500 million to France, smash the gangs, working with European partners, the border command. It's all nonsense. It's hot air. It's BS. If you want to stop the boats, you can stop the boats. And I think, Steve, actually, I think the government are treating British people like they're incredibly thick. I think they think that British people are very stupid, that so much so they can wheel out another slogan, say, oh, we've got a border command, or we're working with the French, or whatever. They think they're inherently stupid, thinking that anybody's going to believe it, because it's not working. And I just wonder as well, just finally, sorry to rant on, but this really grinds my gears. When Labour won power in July last year, I would say to people like Bill Rammell, you know, the lefties who come on GB News, I'd say, right, you're making no progress with the small boats. When are we going to get some answers? When are we going to get results? And they'd say it's too early. We're cleaning up the Tories' mess. We need some time. Is it now time, Steve, very quickly, because we're running out of time, is it now time Labour took responsibility, or should we be more generous and say, well, yeah, you know, you've only been in 15 months? Well,
if you're talking about backlogs, that's different. That might take time to turn that ship around, but turning actual ships around should be a lot quicker. I really made that metaphor very confusing, didn't I?
Yeah, great stuff. I think you said ships there, Steve, but yeah, thank you, Stephen.
I did ships, yeah.
Again in the next hour. Still ahead on the Late Show Live.
Yeah, I think this is actually bigger than me. You know, I know that this video was attacking me.
We'll tell you what that's all about very shortly, but also on the show tonight, the UK's competition watchdog has just labelled Apple and Google, US firms, as having strategic market status. Long story short, Labour in the UK is encroaching on American companies. Again, it's all kicking off. Back in a tick.
newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Right, another day, another major encroachment by Keir Starmer's government on US companies, because breaking today, the UK's competition watchdog has accused US firms, Apple and Google, of having strategic market status in each of their mobile platforms. Basically, it means the Competition and Markets Authority can now impose new rules on how Apple and Google, again I stress US companies, operate their mobile platforms in the UK. This comes off the back, of course, of US firms being dragged into our draconian online Safety Act, with the likes of American website and the forum 4chan, the massive website, refusing to pay daily fines to Ofcom for alleged rule breaches. And why should they? Well, let's get a take now of Mike Salem, who's the UK Policy Associate for the Consumer Choice Centre. Mike, you submitted a letter to the CMA on this decision, just in layman's terms, because this can get quite complicated and bogged down in detail. What's going on here, and why is Labour and Keir Starmer again encroaching on US companies?
Yes, good evening, Ben. We submitted consultation responses throughout the process to the CMA, and effectively what they've done is they found Apple to be too big of a company to handle here in the UK, and they decided to give them a special status called SMS. It's not text messaging like the old days, but it actually stands for strategic market status. And effectively what it does, it allows the regulator to interfere in the market and impose restrictions which will affect our everyday use. This is beyond what we actually think it might affect us. Actually, it'll be very impactful for consumers and interface specifically for UK consumers here. And I fear that it will affect innovation and other latest technological innovations arriving to the UK market here.
So this seems extraordinary. So this is yet another example of Labour, the Labour government, coming after US companies. We had, of course, the encryption situation with Apple iPhones, right? Then we had, what was the other one?
Indeed, so we've had the encryption and we've had the Online Safety Acts, and despite all that, indeed, and when Trump visited here a few weeks ago, you'll remember that we did sign a tech prosperity agreement. So what I do find is very puzzling how on the one hand, we are very happy, Trump is very happy to engage with us on this, and then on the other hand, we're being very strict to US companies. So I'm sure that the Americans will take notice of today's decision, and there will certainly be conversations being had in the back rooms to actually assess how bad it is. If you remember with the encryption case, which we were very active on as well here at the Consumer Choice Centre, in fact, the NSA in the US had to interfere in the UK to tell them to back off, because not even the MI5, not even the FBI were engaging in this. So it's really peculiar to see how the government and the regulators here in the UK are trying to encroach on US firms. And this is concerning not just for us as citizens, for privacy, for security, but also for accessing latest innovation and allowing true consumer choice to be achieved in the market.
Yeah, and also Labour at the same time as they're doing this, well, not Labour, but the police under Labour's authority, their government, arresting people like Graham Linehan at airports. Graham now lives in Arizona in the US. He tweeted on a US platform and he's getting pinched by armed police at Heathrow. I just wonder, Mike, what the Trump administration really thinks of our Labour government and what's going on in the UK after all this kind of nonsense.
Indeed. I mean, this is the tweet case is a separate thing from the CMA, but it does highlight a very dangerous precedent here. And I think the police have decided to back off that after huge pressure by the public. And I think the government was rather red-faced after all that. So it is very important for us to defend our freedom of speech, especially on social media outlets. And what the government seems to forget is that these are all private platforms. Just because we all tweet on them, it doesn't mean that they are a public platform for the government to regulate on. And actually they are owned by private companies, and they've got to be very careful because they can't give one company advantage and over the other. So by regulating strictly against one company, you risk giving the other unfair advantage. And fundamentally, we all care about our rights, and any encroachment on our freedom of speech, freedom of access to latest technology will just leave us all worse off. And I really urge the government to rethink their tech policy on these heaps of issues, because it's very important for us to be a leading stage on this platform.
All right, Mike. Mike, thanks very much. Mike Salem, you are the UK Policy Associate for the Consumer Choice Centre. Labour encroaching again on American companies. Who'd have thought? Back in just a tick with the latest on the small boats crisis. President Trump's doing something right. They've solved it. See you in a sec.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, Storm Benjamin has pushed in, and whilst it was named by the French Met Service, has nonetheless brought some heavy rain and strong winds to southern parts of the UK, and will continue to do so across eastern areas as we go through today. Rainfall totals are going to build up, could cause some problems, and watch out for gusts reaching perhaps up to 70 miles per hour in some exposed places. Further west, slightly drier but showery bursts of rain across eastern Scotland, much of England and Wales, and towards the far west of Scotland and Northern Ireland as well. Temperatures are going to be around or a little bit below average for the time of year, but when you factor in those strong winds, the cloud and the rain, it's going to feel pretty unpleasant. And as we go into this evening, still some showery bursts of rain, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland. Some of them could be heavy, could even be a bit of thunder mixed in. Drier and perhaps even clearer across many other parts of Scotland, albeit towards the west coast, a few showers here. Quite a showery theme through this evening across parts of Northern Ireland, and also showers piling into parts of Wales, southwest England. Still some strong blustery winds here, but it's still across far eastern areas where it's going to be wettest to end the day, and that's where we have those strongest winds as well. As we go overnight into Friday, now Storm Benjamin is clearing away into the North Sea, but exactly how quickly it clears away, that's still a bit uncertain. So I think we are going to see some rain fringing still into eastern parts of Scotland and showers coming into the west. Elsewhere, some dry, clear weather at times, and if you're sheltered from those strong winds, it could turn quite chilly through into tomorrow morning. And then through Friday itself, then watch out for some heavy rain across eastern parts of Scotland, as that could build up and lead to some impacts, and it could be a particularly wet and windy day here. Elsewhere, plenty of showers coming in from the west. Some of them could be heavy and they could be thundery at times too. Meanwhile, temperatures maybe up a degree or so compared to today, and a bit more sunshine on offer as well. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
as I said,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. Tonight on The Late Show Live, records being set in Britain when it comes to illegal migration, hundreds more arriving on our shores in the UK today. Meanwhile, President Trump seems to have cracked it. I'll tell you how next. Good evening to you tonight on The Late Show Live.
Do you regret the whole friendship with Epstein?
Now, still not.
Well, Prince Andrew ordered to Congress. Huge breaking news tonight from the United States. The Duke is being urged to testify in front of US lawmakers over the Epstein scandal. Both Democrats and Republicans have urged the Prince to step forward and board a flight to America. Will he do it? Also tonight, Smash the Gangs disaster, that's an understatement. Breaking news, 220 migrants crossed the Channel illegally into Britain today, taking the total for the year to just shy of 40,000. And the Prime Minister's sham one-in, one-out deal with France has already fallen apart too. Meanwhile, I'm afraid to say, in the US, 2 million illegals have either left or been kicked out of America since Trump took office in January, including 500,000 who have been forcibly removed. We'll also be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, hours before they hit the shelves back in Blighty, including what we can expect from the King and Queen's historic state visit to Rome, marking a significant moment for the Church of England and indeed the Catholic Church. And of course, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this from last night. And tonight, I wouldn't blame President Trump for his patience wearing thin over Putin either, because Russia today has refused to accept America's terms for... Well, I'd like to know if the Trump administration was watching The Late Show Live last night, because they've just announced new sanctions targeting Russia's two largest oil companies.
I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions, and sanctions on oil.
Meanwhile, in New York...
There are many parades that I would not be attending because I'd be focusing on the work of leading this city.
Which parades?
A number of them. I've already missed a number of those parades because I've been trying to speak to as many New Yorkers as possible.
If you thought Sadiq Khan in London was bad, get a load of this guy. The New York mayoral candidates face their final debate tonight, including the hugely controversial commie Zohran Mamdani. To say the last debate was bizarre is an understatement. I'll share that with you very shortly. I'm Ben Leo, this is The Late Show Live, and welcome along to the second hour, where the stories get hotter, the pace gets a little bit faster, and the brakes have been dropped. Don't go anywhere. Right, let's get stuck in, shall we? The government's plan to smash the gangs is plunged into chaos, if it wasn't already. 220 migrants crossed the Channel illegally into Britain today, taking the total for the year to just under 40,000. That's 140 more than the number of small boat migrants who arrived during the whole of last year, 2024. Despite poor weather conditions in the Channel, 3 boatloads of migrants managed to make the crossing today, well, yesterday on Wednesday. The total so far this year is almost 8,800 ahead of the 28,204 who arrived at the same point last year. And it gets worse for the Prime Minister's one-in, one-out scheme after a migrant deported under the plan, so we kicked them out back to France. Anyway, guess what happened? They came back into the UK by small boat again. He's now back in detention. Earlier this year, I spoke to former Labour Minister Bill Rammell on my old show, Ben Leo Tonight, on the migrant situation, and this is what he had to say. So the fact of the matter is the numbers aren't coming down, are they? It's more than 50,000 since Labour took power last year. So you just wonder, I mean, where does this end? I know we've spoken in the past, Bill, you and I, you've said, you know, give it time. They've only been in power for 5, 6, 7, 8 months. When do we start saying, hang on a minute, and even people like you who are Labour supporters, former Labour Minister, when do you start saying, right, Prime Minister, something's not working?
11 months ago. I think the building blocks are in place. So the deal with France, the border security bill, which is just becoming law, a significant ramping up of returns agreements. I expect that to start having an impact over the next 6 to 9 months.
I'm just wondering why I look so tanned in that clip. I look like a Donald Trump tribute. Well, I guess it was summer in the UK in August, wasn't it? Looking a bit paler here in DC. Anyway, on to more important matters. That was Bill Rammell, of course. My big point about going back to speak to the likes of Bill Rammell and seeing what the Labour heads have to say is, when do we have the ability to say to Labour, you've had enough time now, it's time to take responsibility? Because still now we're hearing, we inherited the Tories' mess, it's only been 15 months, there's not a lot of time. But in the US, as we're setting illegal migrant records in the UK, President Trump here in America is on track to set another kind of record. The administration is expected to significantly exceed the record number of illegals deported out of the United States. Since Trump's return to the Oval Office in January, the administration has deported over 500,000 illegal migrants. More than 2 million have left, either voluntarily or been forcibly kicked out. So it's a stark contrast, and it just goes to show what can be done if you have the political will. Well, let's get the take now of former Tory MP Daniel Kaczynski. Daniel, thank you for your company at this early hour. Really appreciate it. First of all, it's a pretty dismal record now so far from this Labour government. Have they run out of time? Do we hear those excuses from the likes of Bill Rammell, the former Labour minister, saying we need enough time, we inherited the Tories' mess? Can that no longer be wheeled out as an excuse, Daniel?
Well, of course, you quite rightly identified the stark contrast between our own country and the United States of America. They had a horrendous problem across the Mexican-American border, and now all of a sudden that huge tide of people has just stopped. And clearly, President Trump has instructed his neighbors in Mexico that unless they police their own side of the border, there will be consequences for them in terms of tariffs and other sanctions. Whereas we just give the French more and more money, and basically they refuse to police their own coastline. So, you know, as long as this lack of cooperation from France continues, we will continue to suffer these unprecedented numbers coming into the United Kingdom. But the person that's really to blame, or the group that's really to blame, of course, is the European Union. In their fixation to create an artificial supranational state, they have dismantled all of the borders on our continent. I don't think that is the case anywhere else in the world. And so they have facilitated the free movement of criminal gangs, narcotics, and illegal migrants across the whole of our continent. So we should be suing the European Union until they resurrect some of their internal border controls.
Yeah, what a great idea. And I guess, slightly off topic, that's what Brexit was about. And that's why so many people have a problem with, I'd argue as well, multiculturalism. There is a beauty, the beauty of humanity, correct me if you disagree, but the beauty of humanity is going to different nations, experiencing their language, their culture, their way of living, maybe using different currency, picking up a note and, you know, admiring the just silly things like admiring the note. When you have something like the European Union, who they want the same flag, they want the same army, they want the same currency, they want no borders, they want the millions of people living under the same roof and the same authority, it completely destroys the magic of life and exploration and adventure. Again, slightly off topic, but I think it's quite pertinent to the migration situation. I'm going to bring in my panel now to have a chat with you, if you don't mind. The Exec Director at Unleash Prosperity, Tim Doescher, and the foreign correspondent and journalist, Sarah Firth. Tim, we've got a question for our former Tory MP here, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm curious, Daniel, where is the motivation here to fix this problem? Is this purely political, this one in, one out? Because obviously this isn't going to work. It's never going to work. You have to have moral clarity when you go into a situation like this to enforce the law. So where is the push for this? Have the people made their voices clear, or is this just Labour ignoring them?
Well, of course, we've just seen that one of these people that's been returned to France has come back again. And it'll be interesting to see just how many of the returned people that we send back to France ultimately return back in the United Kingdom. What is France doing with them when they are sent back? Clearly, France is not taking the action to expel them to another part of the European Union, so they will stay in the Pas-de-Calais, waiting for an opportunity to try again. The whole thing is very, very shambolic. But can I just make the point? There are 2 or 3 major pinch point areas in the Mediterranean where illegal migrants use other countries in the Mediterranean as a springboard to get into the European Union and then ultimately to Britain. Libya, of course, is one of those. And quite frankly, the United Kingdom ought to be helping countries like Libya and Morocco that are the gateway of these huge movements of people. And at the moment, Libya still has sanctions from its time during the Civil War. So I think the United Kingdom has a responsibility to take a lead in helping these frontline states, clearly something that the European Union, all of its collective resources, is failing to do because they're failing to police their external borders. The United Kingdom, of course, is a magnet because a disproportionate number of those illegal migrants will come to the United Kingdom because, A, of our language, which is universally known around the world, but also our extraordinary high social welfare payments, which they're attracted to here.
Yeah, you've got to stop the pull factors, you've got to stop the hotels, you've got to stop the bus passes, the dentistry, the Wi-Fi. You know, it's a complete disgrace. And also, talking of Libya, I mean, if you want to keep bashing France, why not? I'm game for that. Wasn't it France who led the coalition of bombing the hell out of Libya and Gaddafi? Hillary Clinton, this side of the pond, saying we came, we saw, we killed him. You know, Libya is one of the biggest hellholes. I mean, it's the biggest slave nation on earth.
I do want to just say really quick that we did try that under Biden. We tried to go into the other nations where the people were coming from. We need to give them money. We need to work with them in order to stop them from coming. But what we didn't do is we didn't close our border. And that's what Trump has done, and he's prioritized. And I think that that's probably what the UK is missing. Again, that moral clarity to close down the border.
Sarah, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, Daniel, thank you very much for taking my question, sir. You spoke about what Labour is doing right now, you know, being shambolic. I don't think there's anyone in Britain or here in America really who would disagree with that outcome so far. You know, huge numbers still coming across under Labour despite this one in, one out policy, and now we've heard one back in again. But I am interested, so you know, the Conservatives were in power for a very long time. Billions were spent. You know, you guys promised to take back control of the borders. You know, here in America, President Trump has shown the impact that having the political will to tackle this issue can have. So I want to ask, you know, it's all well and good to criticise what Labour is doing right now. What is the sticking point when it comes to British politics, the way that we approach this issue that means that the Conservatives and now Labour just simply are not getting this done?
Well, clearly we're party to a horrendous number of sort of like international protocols and agreements, like being in the European Court of Human Rights and all the rest of it, and our own judges' decisions are overturned by foreign courts. The pendulum has swung too far away from the state and people who want to protect the state and control our borders towards the rights of people who break into our country illegally and want to basically jump the queue. Very few of these people in these boats are people in wheelchairs, disabled or blind people or children. They're just young men who have basically paid criminal gangs £5,000 or £6,000 to jump the queue. And quite frankly, it's appalling that they get the sanctuary that they get. But can I just also say that in reality, as long as I've made this point already, but we will continue to have this problem until the European Union is prepared to resurrect its borders. We are starting to see mass flows of drugs and criminal gangs operating across the whole of the United Kingdom, coming from the European Union as well. And so that's a big problem for us. But finally, Australia found the right country to work with, Nauru, a Pacific island in the middle of a Pacific island. They sent their illegal migrants to Nauru. It worked because there were no job opportunities in Nauru. So the illegal migrants very quickly told the criminal gangs, don't send us to Australia. The mistake the Conservatives made, and I want to be very critical of the Conservative Party, is putting all of our eggs in one basket, which is Rwanda. Crazy country to have chosen, a country that itself had been through a internecine bloodbath a few decades ago, and the British people did not have the confidence that this was the right country to partner up with in terms of sending illegal migrants overseas. It should have been a British overseas territory that we have total control over. That we have total control over. A place like, you know, I'm not going to mention them, but there are 15 British overseas territories around the world, and those jurisdictions we have total control over. So the Conservatives made a horrendous mistake, in my view, and I spoke out against it on the floor of the House of Commons when I was a member of Parliament, that we made a mistake in selecting that country.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Ascension Island. I mean, I don't know the logistics of the Chagos Islands. We're now paying 40 billion quid over a century to give away the Chagos Islands. I mean, you could have done that. Who knows? And also, just talking of Rwanda, Daniel, I know you say we needed other options aside from Rwanda, but still to this day, maybe you can answer. Why did Rishi Sunak call an election when he did? Rwanda wasn't off the ground. Inflation was coming down. Interest rates were coming down. It all looked like it could have, you know, got a little bit better for the Tories towards the end of the year. But for some bizarre reason, maybe you know the reason, I don't know, but he called an election. Why did he do that then?
Well, he didn't inform, obviously, his own members of parliament nor his own cabinet. He just went to the palace and asked for a dissolution of parliament. I very much hope the answer to it comes out one day. I have my own suspicions, but I don't think Conservative Party activists...
What are they, Daniel?
Oh, share them, Daniel.
Well, I'm sure it will come out one day, but all I can say is he made a horrendous mistake, and a mistake which devastated the Conservative Party. But then again, you know, even if we had waited another 6 months, the mistakes that we had made in the rotation of leaders over the last 3 years became a pantomime. And I'm afraid the British people had enough. They were going to throw us out one way or the other.
Yeah, I kind of think when Boris was ousted for, again, fairly controversial thing to say, I don't really care. Some people will say he wasn't ousted for crusty M&S sandwiches in Downing Street. Of course, it was Chris Pincher who eventually proved the cherry on top. But I think when all that nonsense happened, that was kind of the beginning of the end for the Tory party. Daniel, really appreciate your company tonight and staying up late. Thank you very much, former Tory MP Daniel Kaczynski. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know what you think about that. A spokesman for the Home Office has said, "We will not accept any abuse of our borders and will do everything in our power to remove those without the legal right to be here. Individuals who are returned under the pilot and subsequently attempt to re-enter the UK illegally will be removed." Fine. I mean, you're not meant to really, when we read these rights of replies, you're not really meant to comment again afterwards and push back because the Home Office don't have a chance to come back at it. But when they're saying they'll be removed again, illegals will be removed, you're just going to have the same situation where they're plonked back in France, allowed to run riot, and they're going to be getting the next train or bus back to Calais. It's just insanity. Right, coming up next on The Late Show Live.
We did have legislative wins.
Sure,
and
but
that
didn't talk about them that well, though.
Biden's old press secretary, there she is. She's on a crusade to defend her old boss. Also tonight, Steve Edgington's been out and about in the Big Apple. New Yorkers head to the polls on November the 4th to pick a new mayor. If you thought Sadiq Khan in London was bad, we'll get a load of this race. Democrat Zohan Mamdani, the Republican Curtis Sliwa, and the Independent Andrew Cuomo. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. Right, welcome back. New Yorkers are heading to the polls on November the 4th to elect a brand new mayor of the city. The race features Democrat State Assemblyman Zohan Mamdani, and he's controversial to say the least. I argue and others argue he's just a massive raging commie. Also, the Republican activist Curtis Sliwa and the independent former governor Andrew Cuomo. Mamdani, who calls himself a democratic socialist, pulled off a major upset, defeating Cuomo in the Democratic primary. Now Cuomo's running as an independent, and GB News US correspondent Steve Edgington, well, he's taken to the streets of New York to find out what people had to say about Mamdani.
I'm a really big fan. I'll be voting for him this November. I'm a really big fan of his policies on freezing the rent and having free buses. Yeah, I'm really excited about his candidate.
Are you a communist?
Yeah, I am. I would say I'm a communist.
And what does that involve?
To me, I feel like communism involves, well, my view of communism involves also dissolution of the state in general.
I like him.
Why?
I like his ideas. I like his personality. I think he says what he believes.
Currently, I think he's a good politician and also a good person. And I think overall, he's in the right directions of what we should strive for to see in politicians.
All right, let's go live to commentator and filmmaker Armie Horowitz. Armie, I fear for the future of New York. Are you in New York at the moment?
I'm currently in Melbourne, but yeah, I do live in New York, been there for 25 years. So this is very personal to me, right? I'm going to be living this.
What do you make of the women that Steve Edgington was speaking to there saying, yeah, I'm a communist? What's your take on that? I mean, is New York filled with commies?
Look, yes and no. I mean, I think we make a lot of it in terms of, you know, it's not a communist city, right? It is not. Having said that, there's certainly a trend among younger people, right? Younger people seem to break more socialist, Marxist, communist than older people for sure, because they're idealistic and they're, let's be honest, they're kind of stupid. And that's the stupid base is really the Mamdani base. That's really what he's going for, right? That's the only way he's going to win. Mamdani didn't win the Bronx. Mamdani didn't win any of the areas where people of color, black people, Hispanic people, Puerto Rican people, right? He won Tribeca. He won Greenwich Village. He won Williamsburg, right? You know, it's funny. He claims to be the man of the working people, right? The man of the underclass. Well, guess what? The underclass is not voting for him. Underclass, he lost the underclass on the vote when it came to Cuomo, and he's going to lose them again. They understand, right? People who live in Harlem, they get what it means to defund the police, because the police are the thin blue line for them to be protected from the predations of people who would go after them. They get that. But the people, you know, in Soho don't understand that because they live in Soho. They have a luxury belief, right? They have a luxury to believe in things like Marxism and the destruction of our police force. But people in real neighborhoods, tough neighborhoods, they don't have that luxury.
Yeah. Army, the latest debate is kicking off imminently, if it hasn't already. I want to just show you, I'm sure you've seen it, I want to show our viewers and listeners a clip from the last debate, which descended into just, I mean, it was insanity. It was very, very weird. Take a look at this.
There are many parades that I would not be attending because I'd be focusing on the work of leading this city.
Which parades?
A number of them. I've already missed a number of those parades because I've been trying to speak to as many New Yorkers as possible.
Okay.
I don't have the list of all the parades I've missed.
Wow, that's a lot.
Are there,
the mayor should be going to all parades.
Let me ask you this. Are there any parades that don't exist that you think should? Mr. Mamdani?
I haven't thought much about parades, to be honest with you.
I don't know what the hell that debate was about, including the question, what are they banging about parades for? Quizzing all of them, saying, what parade would you go to? What parade wouldn't you go to? I mean, is that the sort of level of intellect we've got with this New York mayoral race, Army?
All right, so that's an inside baseball thing when it comes to New York. We love our parades in New York, right? We got tons of parades. We're a parade city. So it's a little bit of a different thing. You guys don't get it. You know, it's kind of a personal, important thing to us. But I think the more important point is this. Is that if Cuomo has any, look, the latest polls are fascinating, right? If you look at the wise guys in Vegas, Mamdani is in a 75-80% range to win, right? That's kind of the betting markets right now. Some a little bit higher, some a touch lower, but that's about where they are. The reality is the latest polls were really interesting, and what they pointed out, something we all kind of knew, Sliwa's got to drop out, right? If he does, the race between Cuomo and Mamdani is as tight as can be. In fact, it's within the margin of error. There's a lot of pressure on Curtis Sliwa to leave. I get 3-4 texts a day from his campaign. So we'll see what ends up happening with that.
All right. I'm going to bring my panel in now, Tim Doescher and Sarah Firth. Sarah, you've got some, I think the debate's happening now, isn't it? What's happening? You've been keeping an eye on it.
Yes, it's underway. So this is the final New York mayoral debate. It's a 2-hour debate. And already, you know, they're touching on some of the issues that we knew were going to be brought up here between the candidates. So we're talking public safety. We're talking the rising cost of living, President Trump and views around his leadership. Some reports coming out already this evening that Mamdani and Cuomo have been trading some accusations and jabs. We've seen them go toe-to-toe before. It's happening again tonight. It's about halfway through the debate, actually. Cuomo has been hitting out at Mamdani's alleged inexperience, and Mamdani, for his part, has been looking and raising the issue of some of Cuomo's shortcomings, he said, in his time in governor. So it's hotting up in that final debate for them.
Interesting. And Tim, Cuomo was accusing Mamdani of never having a job. Is that right?
Well, I mean, maybe he's had a job, but I guarantee you he hasn't had enough experience to run the Big Apple, the biggest city in the United States and most powerful in the entire world. But I will say this, I watched some of these interviews and I watched, you know, you just showed this girl standing on the street gleefully smiling, saying that she is a proud communist. And I just have a problem with that, because if you know the history, the recent history, communism has killed over 100 million people worldwide and robbed billions of their livelihood. I don't think that's anything to smile about, and it's a shame that citizens of New York are so in their bubble where they go to their cocktail parties and their happy hours and they talk about communism, but they have no idea what it's going to bring. Well, look, if they elect Mamdani, they're going to learn very quickly.
Yeah, I went to New York for that Palestine protest, Army, where there were people waving Hamas flags, Hezbollah flags. There were people wearing communist T-shirts, you know, Che Guevara things and so on. I just want to play this comic clip one more time because I found it extraordinary. Steve Edgington. Let's take one more quick look.
I'm a really big fan. I'll be voting for him this November. I'm a really big fan of his policies on freezing the rent and having free buses. Yeah, I'm really excited about his candidate.
Are you a communist?
Yeah, I am. I would say I'm a communist.
And what does that involve?
To me, I feel like communism involves, well, my view of communism involves also dissolution of the state in general.
I like him.
Why?
I like his ideas. I like his personality. I think he says what he believes.
Okay, some big breaking news whilst that clip was playing. Sarah Firth next to me has said she likes him. I said, who do you like? Is it Army do you like, or do you like Steve Edgington, our reporter? She said, no, I like Mamdani. Why, Sarah?
Not like Ben. Loves Mamdani.
Why?
Listen, look, I've been to New York many times reporting on the story and his rise. He's been so clever in the way that he has engaged, particularly the young population in politics. And look, so many New Yorkers that I've spoken to, they've said out with the old guard, in with the new. This inexperience accusation that he gets, that's simply not playing well. You know, he maintains, I think it's a double-digit lead still with less than a month to go. He is talking about issues that New Yorkers care about, how to tackle rising costs of living.
You sound like the New York Times journalist who interviewed Fidel Castro before the revolution.
Go and speak to the people on the streets of New York. They are worried about the cost of living. I mean, look, honestly, politics aside, you cannot deny that
he's a half-wit. He knows nothing.
But he's getting the numbers. Something's working. Something's clicking with the electorate.
Yeah. He's simply taking the playbook from Leon Trotsky from the October in 1917. This is communism. This is socialism, and I cannot believe
that
you would run cover for him.
But what's the alternative? Como, who got booted out for sexual harassment allegations, which he's denied. But that is, you know, he's had his time.
Not communism.
Is Mamdani a communist? Let's just have it out now. You're a New Yorker. Is he a commie?
I mean, look, communism is such a specific belief system that I don't want to get into labels because it doesn't really matter. Ultimately, look, what does he want to do? You know, you're talking about, he wants to deal with cost of living. Yeah, cost of living can be very, very cheap. When we return to the 70s and 80s of New York and nobody want to live there, there'll be plenty of apartments for rent because nobody will be staying there. It's going to be dystopian again. That's the direction we're going in. And yes, your rents will come down when you can't walk out of your apartment without fear of being murdered or killed on the streets of New York. That will make life cheaper, for sure. No question about it.
Well, there we go. Mic drop. We'll end on that. Army, really appreciate your company. Thank you. And we'll catch up soon. Enjoy Melbourne, whatever you're doing there. Hopefully getting some sun. Is it sun in Melbourne? What's the date? It's October. Yeah, it should be summer.
Melbourne, Florida, or Australia?
Oh, well, I assumed Australia, no?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe it's Melbourne, Florida. Oh, it's sunny in Florida as well. So wherever he is, it's going to be sunny, hopefully. Sarah, you said, who did you say the other week you liked as well, which stunned me?
Sadiq Khan.
Sadiq Khan. So you like Sadiq Khan and Mamdani?
I like the younger guard. Yeah, they're doing something right.
Well, I like you. So,
Thank you.
I like you. I like you.
Guys, I like you too.
Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
Yeah, I think this is actually bigger than me. You know, I know that this video was attacking me.
I'll tell you who that guy is. He's well, he's not far left. He's a left-leaning Democrat activist who President Trump's been targeting on social media. Anyway, he's been crying about it. We'll show you the full clip shortly. But first, tomorrow's papers. The Times leads with grooming victims say minister should quit. That's a story about Jess Phillips today. Did you see her meltdown in Parliament today? We'll see if we can get that clip. She absolutely lost her head, and there's now calls for her to resign. We'll cover that next on The Late Show Live. Back in a tick.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, Storm Benjamin has pushed in, and whilst it was named by the French Met Service, has nonetheless brought some heavy rain and strong winds to southern parts of the UK and will continue to do so across eastern areas as we go through today. Rainfall totals are going to build up, could cause some problems, and watch out for gusts reaching perhaps up to 70 miles per hour in some exposed places. Further west, slightly drier but showery bursts of rain across eastern Scotland, much of England and Wales, and towards the far west of Scotland and Northern Ireland as well. Temperatures are going to be around or a little bit below average for the time of year, but when you factor in those strong winds, the cloud and the rain, it's going to feel pretty unpleasant. Then, as we go into this evening, still some showery bursts of rain, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland. Some of them could be heavy, could even be a bit of thunder mixed in. Drier and perhaps even clearer across many other parts of Scotland, albeit towards the west coast, a few showers here. Quite a showery theme through this evening across parts of Northern Ireland, and also showers piling into parts of Wales, southwest England. Still some strong blustery winds here, but it's still across far eastern areas where it's going to be wettest to end the day, and that's where we have those strongest winds as well. As we go overnight into Friday, now Storm Benjamin is clearing away into the North Sea, but exactly how quickly it clears away, that's still a bit uncertain. So I think we are going to see some rain fringing still into eastern parts of Scotland and showers coming into the west. Elsewhere, some dry, clear weather at times, and if you're sheltered from those strong winds, it could turn quite chilly through into tomorrow morning. And then through Friday itself, then watch out for some heavy rain across eastern parts of Scotland, as that could build up and lead to some impacts, and it could be a particularly wet and windy day here. Elsewhere, plenty of showers coming in from the west. Some of them could be heavy and they could be thundery at times too. Meanwhile, temperatures maybe up a degree or so compared to today, and a bit more sunshine on offer as well. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Prime Minister said these are days of destiny, and we're very excited to sit down and work together on the Gaza peace plan. We have a very, very tough task ahead of us, which is to disarm Hamas, but rebuild Gaza to make life better for the people in Gaza, but also to ensure that Hamas is no longer a threat to our friends in Israel. That's not easy. I think the Prime Minister knows that as well as anybody.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. That, of course, was US Vice President J.D. Vance as he met with Israeli's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss the Gaza peace deal. Kind of get the feeling they've been kind of sent over there with Steve Witkoff to make sure the ceasefire and the peace deal doesn't completely erupt. Elsewhere, let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages hitting the shelves in Blighty tomorrow. The Express, it's one in, one out and back again as part of 60,000 Channel arrivals under the Prime Minister. Yeah, the complete farce. We've covered it enough today. Labour clueless, rudderless, and the migrants keep coming in. The Sun, same kind of vibe. Come again. Deported one in, one out migrants sail straight back here from France in a dinghy. And of course the Home Office in their statement tonight saying, we will remove anybody who's not meant to be here. Fine, you're going to dump them back in France and they're going to come back to Calais and back into Dover. The Times, grooming victims say minister should quit. This is a story on Jess Phillips, where we'll play her clip in a second, a complete meltdown in Parliament today when somebody dared hold her to account over the fact the inquiry is collapsing at the seams. The Daily Mail, great front page here. Headlined Le Farce, as 2025 arrivals already exceed those for 2024. A migrant deported to France under Starmer's one in, one out deal is back in Britain in just 29 days on a small boat. Very good. The New York Times, the US struggles to break out from China's grip on rare earth minerals. That comes as Trump signed a deal with Anthony Albanese, the Australian Prime Minister, yesterday or the day before on rare earth. And the Washington Post, Trump has claimed millions from the government. He could order a payment in compensation. So President Trump basically claims he was damaged by investigations and he wants compensation. The quote says, it sort of looks bad. I'm suing myself, says President Trump. Let me know your thoughts on those. gbnews.com/your say. Let's get the take now of GB News contributor and comedian Steve N. Allen. Steve, shall we start with, what about this tax raid mooted for the November budget from Rachel Reeves? Another one, as Brenda from Bristol would say?
Surely not, because we've been promised that there won't be any more. So, yes, what we've got there is the front page. The headline is Raise Income Tax as Reeves urged Labour splits emerge, which rhymes. I like a headline which rhymes. It's apparently senior figures saying that what they should do is be bold and break their party manifesto. I thought that they're making it seem like some sort of a valiant thing. You should go ahead and break your promises. That's the opposite of what my parents used to say. But I suppose it's always been coming, because everything that they've done to try and fix this black hole, which started out as 9 billion and is somehow over 50, it's got bigger, like black holes do, to be fair, to be scientific about it. But nothing seems to be fixing it. So now they've painted themselves into a corner by promising not increasing any taxes on working people. They've already done employer-side national insurance, and it's, by the look of it, had a rather negative impact on the economy. They can't really do stamp duty anymore, thanks to Angela Rayner and what happened at the Tory party conference with them saying they get rid of stamp duty. So it looks like they're going to do this. And they said it would be a simpler way of doing it. If they simplified everything to stop attacking us with the death by 1,000 cuts of being taxed in every manoeuvre, then it would be something. If all you knew you had to pay was your income tax, you could make some sort of an argument for it. But it won't be that, will it? It will be they'll increase it, call it temporary, it'll stay in like income tax originally was. And they say that it will be better than freezing the thresholds. I can't help but imagine they'll still freeze the thresholds. And that's the nastiest way of getting taxed, isn't it? When you do slightly better in life just because the pound's worth slightly less and get taxed more. That one stings.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. I'm going to bring my panel now, Steve. Tim Dozier and Sarah Firth. Tim, you had a question or something to say for Steve?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing to watch the Labour Party, since they took over last year, handle tax policy. What they did was, they cut that deduction that you were able to take for capital gains in half with the hope that it was going to raise more revenue to plug that $70 billion black hole in the UK budget. The problem, though, is that when you raise taxes like that, you actually get less government revenue. The capital gains revenue is now been down 18% since they cut that deduction. It's a bad tax policy, and it's not going to do what they hope, which is bring in more revenue. It's just going to drive business out.
People don't declare, or they just won't sell the assets. They'll hold on to them. Steve, there was an amazing stat doing the rounds yesterday. So the top 0.1% of earners in the UK, 0.1%, are paying more income tax than the entire bottom 50%. And I can guarantee you those top payers, those top contributors, wouldn't have half as much a problem with it if they could see the money being spent on decent projects. But we're spending $14 billion on public sector pay rises, $22 billion on carbon capture schemes, $3 billion a year on migrant hotels and the rest on migrants, $35 billion on Chagos, the $11 billion on international climate aid, $10 billion for foreigners. It goes on and on and on. Why would you stay when you see this kind of nonsense going on?
Because you can speak the language. Maybe that's the only reason. Do you know, one of the things we talked about a little earlier on was about the idea of what are Labour doing in terms of dealing with spending? Because tax is only half of the coin, isn't it? Tax and spend. That's how this system's meant to work. Right. And they've got a problem with the amount of spending. And they actually have tried to address some spending. We all remember the benefits reform. And look how that went. So it's not just an issue with having a problem with spending. They've got an issue with being able to try to fix their problem with spending. And that means the black hole is just going to get bigger, isn't it? Every time they seem to take more money, it's just going into this bigger hole, and it's not fixing the problem.
Just last thing on tax. Sarah, I have a question for you, if you don't mind. Tell me to bugger off if you think I'm being a bit nosy. But, of course, you're a Brit in the US.
Yeah.
The tax situation here, do you feel better? Are you more appreciative of the tax situation here?
I am. I like, America is the land of opportunity, and I think the tax situation reflects that. The taxes feel fairer, wages are better, and there's more opportunity there. I think the difficulty in the US, and I'd have said, I probably fell into the middle class bracket where the tax is it was so high. And I agree absolutely with what's been said there, that the problem as a British citizen being taxed so highly, when you simply don't have that money, is that, okay, if you have transparency about where the money's going, if your services are operating well, if the NHS is being well funded and looked after, then it's understandable. When you see headlines like today where the government have come up with this politically, morally, practically incoherent plan for one in, one out, and it's failing, and you see that your money as a taxpayer is going there, that raises serious questions. And I think that's the upset that a lot of Brits have. So
yeah, well said.
Come to America.
Well, I do miss the UK and England. It's my country. I want to fight for it. I'm not just going to.
But just so you know, Ben, when you become a massive millionaire here in the U.S., you are going to be a part of the 1% who does pay close to half of all the tax burden. So it is extremely important to realize that we are not purely innocent here.
Well, at least you've stopped illegal migration, so that's one thing. I wouldn't mind so much. Steve, I want to move on. There's pressure on Jess Phillips, what's her title? The Women Safeguarding for Women and Girls Minister. This was her meltdown in Parliament today. Let's remind ourselves of it.
Baroness Casey said to this House in the Home Affairs Select Committee she did not want a traditional judicial-led inquiry. She was explicit. And if anyone in this House can find me an institution that didn't fail these girls over the years, including our courts, who took the children away from the grooming gang victims, who criminalised some of them, there is no institution in our country that hasn't failed.
There was an even bigger clip, a fuller clip, Steve, where she was absolutely, literally losing her head because I think at the time 2 grooming gangs witnesses on the inquiry had said, we're not having this, it's a complete sham, and she got very, very defensive. Do you think she should resign, Steve?
Do you know, I think so. And this is more about thinking, what's the purpose of this? We need this inquiry to actually shine some light on this, to actually see what happened, without it becoming the kind of thing that then we can question later. And that's where we're heading. Because at the moment, we've got victims of this saying that they are pulling out of it, they're not interested, they're not thinking it's heading in the right direction. We've got 2 people who could have been the chair of this committee pulling out for very similar reasons. If you've got those things happening, the indicators are there. This is not going to end up being the kind of inquiry that we need to shed light on this issue. We can't just bury it. And it's not just about the race side of it, right? You can definitely make the argument, but if you're afraid to talk about it, or if you're trying to find ways to get around the race issue, the religion issue, the ethnicity issue, then you're not going to end up getting to the bottom of it, which is the least these victims deserve.
Well said, Steve. Steve, I'm going to let you go, mate, and go get some rest and some sleep, or you might be going out clubbing. What are you going to do? You going to the pub, or are you going to bed?
I hadn't thought of clubbing until you said it, but now, I mean, actually with my back, there's no way I can still throw those shapes like I used to. No.
All right, well, if you do decide, record it, mate, and send the footage over. We'll play it on the Late Show Live. Stephen, Alan, thank you very much. Appreciate your company. We're going to move on because I want to share with you, viewers and listeners, something extraordinary. I love this. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt has fired back at a HuffPost journalist's questions in a text exchange about President Trump's proposed meeting with Vladimir Putin in Budapest, which, of course, has now been cancelled. So the reporter from HuffPost asked about the Budapest summit, who suggested... had questions. So here are the questions on your screen now. Is the President aware of the significance of Budapest? In 1994, Russia promised in Budapest not to invade Ukraine if it gave up nuclear weapons, blah, blah, blah. Does he not see why Ukraine might object to that site? Who suggested Budapest? So as far as I'm concerned, a very sort of pompous, stupid question from the HuffPost journalist. Anyway, Karoline Leavitt, the White House Press Secretary, replied with, "Your mum did." And the reporter said, "Is this funny to you?" And Karoline Leavitt replied, "It's funny to me that you actually consider yourself a journalist. You are a far-left hack who nobody takes seriously, including your colleagues in the media. They just don't tell you that to your face. Stop texting me your disingenuous, bias and BS questions." Tim, I applaud Karoline Leavitt for this. Yes. That kind of stupid, pompous question. The fact that a meeting's been arranged in Budapest and referring back to 1914, did you know that this is the site of some, whatever they said, just stupid. What do you make of Karoline Leavitt? Unprofessional, or do you applaud her?
I mean, these reporters, just remember, they have had probably the easiest 4 years of their entire career dealing with the Biden administration. Karine Jean-Pierre and Jen Psaki, all of these people who just kind of let them walk all over the United States of America. And even, I mean, look, there are ethics to journalism. If you go to journalism school like I did, Ben, you learn that there are ethics. You learn that there is protocol. And I think that, I don't exactly know the protocol that she has established in the White House, but I do know that there is protocol when I did work in the White House. And so if you're violating that, time and time again, they should be called out. And so if Leavitt she knew that was going to be posted. We'll just say that. So I think that was calculated, and I think that she was going to make an example of him.
I mean, as a journalist, though, It's a little bit, you know.
It's a HuffPo journalist.
Yeah, but it's the trolling of that is, you know, I just feel like it's beneath Caroline Levitt, actually. I really like the way that she's handling the media. I do think that President Trump's administration, spearheaded by Caroline Levitt, they've been very transparent with the press. You know, even today with Mark Rutte, NATO Secretary General in the White House, you get, again, this long, wide-reaching press conference that would just have been unheard of under Biden. But yeah, trolling a journalist, your mum, really, you know, this is.
But what do you make of that question? Can we get the text exchange back up? Let's just remind ourselves of the question. For me, look, I'm a journalist. I will defend the free press. I mean, you shouldn't have left-wing or right-wing journalists. That wasn't a thing until about 10 years ago. You should just have neutral journalists. But unfortunately, you know, the BBC and the likes of Sky wrecked it. But. Look at this text. This is the question. For me, this stupid question. Is the president aware of the significance of Budapest? In 1994, Russia promised in Budapest not to invade Ukraine. Does he not see why Ukraine might object to that site? Who suggested Budapest? All you're doing there, as far as I'm concerned, is trying to criticise the Trump administration needlessly by clutching at straws about some 20, 30, 40-year-old meeting in Budapest. It's a stupid question. Do you not agree with that?
I mean, stupid question or intelligent question. I think it's at the heart of it, this issue is around the conflict between Ukraine and Russia that President Trump has sought to resolve. And look at what's happened. You know, that summit has now been called off. President Trump has issued sanctions.
Yeah, but it's not because of Budapest it was called off.
No, but I think the questioning, look, but it's, you know, whether the questioning, you think it's intelligent or stupid, I would say that journalist had a point that who was it who suggested that location? Because if it was Vladimir Putin, why is he able to call the shots as to where that summit should have happened?
First of all, I don't read. So you and I are reading this differently, because if you look at her text message in response to that pompous, arrogant, out of left field question that they could have submitted over email. It didn't have to be a text message. That's where I get into the protocol of it. Why are you trying to, you know, corner her in a text message conversation? Why are you doing it that way? Why aren't you going through the proper channels? Why aren't you going to her office? Why aren't you putting it on the record in the press room? Why aren't you doing it that way?
Why couldn't she have given a more intelligent takedown rather than resorting to like a 12-year-old playground comment?
But you're saying the 12-year-old, it sounds like she's responding that a parent should respond to a spoiled rotten brat, which is don't encourage the spoiled rotten brat. You should make them, you know, follow the protocol. That's my read.
I think also in Caroline's defence, if you look at this reporter's Twitter feed and social media profiles, it is just an obsession, just a litany of anti-Trump, anti-administration rhetoric. There is not one bit of praise or neutrality there, or you know, any sense of impartiality. It is, as Caroline said on the text messages, it was a hit piece after hit piece. And for me, as I said, I'll defend journalists till the sun goes down. But that was a stupid question for no other reason other than trying to score some silly brownie points, some hit points over Trump's admin. Talking on the same vibe of the Trump administration and their kind of maturity, left-wing activist Harry Sisson. If you don't know him, he's a sort of Twitter campaigner for the Democrats. If Trump cured cancer or AIDS, he'd say that he'd done something wrong. He went on Don Lemon's show. Do you remember Don Lemon from CNN? Holding back tears as he recounted the trauma of getting virtually trolled by President Trump. Take a look.
Yeah, I think this is actually bigger than me. You know, I know that this video was attacking me, but there were also millions of Americans that were also displayed in that video, also getting attacked by the President of the United States. So he's attacking me in a petty, gross, disgusting way. But I think the more concerning story here is that, you know, I think this is his genuine feelings toward peaceful protest, that if he could, he would attack in some way, shape, or form the people who dissent. So I don't think that this is it's just about me or like the gross attack. I think this is a broader, more concerning story surrounding the Trump admin.
So I will play the clip he's talking about in just a few seconds. Tim, did you see the clip he's talking about? It was Trump, an AI movie of him basically dumping poo on Harry's head.
Well, look, I think there's hyperbole and then there's, humor. And I think Trump has all of those because I think it's why he's a great communicator, especially to his base of people. That is exactly what President Trump is doing there. And as far as this snowflake, Harry
Sisson.
Sorry, I didn't mean that Harry snowflake. But as far as him, look, bottom line is this. You can complain all you want about the protests and how Trump handled it, how he did it, how he's responding to you. But just remember, during a government shutdown, President Trump used federal police to ensure that those protests could carry on peacefully.
Yeah, the No Kings protest. We've got the clip. Let's remind ourselves, and Sarah, I'll get your take on this AI clip that did the rounds yesterday. That President Trump himself retweeted. Here it is. Sarah?
I mean, okay, you can't deny that it's hilarious. Sorry, Harry. It is very funny. Look, there is an argument to be made with, again, this trolling tactic that this administration's using. It is funny. President Trump has got great comedy value. He cuts through the BS. We're watching it again. I mean, look, it's
Trump
hilarious.
retweeted it, by the way. He reposted it on his social.
Wait a minute. You're saying trolling. What was the press doing to President Trump his entire first term? They were trolling him. The entire federal government was trolling President Trump by bringing allegations, by suing him, by almost putting him in jail.
Asking legitimate questions
the ultimate
of the
troll.
President of the United
Grow
States
some
is
thick
legitimate.
skin.
It's the highest office in the world,
They also tried to
basically,
kill
and
him.
that's what you're tweeting AI videos.
The highest office in the world defends their administration and their nation. And that is exactly what President Trump is doing. And by the way, I just will say this. If you look at that video, I'm concerned about whoever's poo that is, because it looks unhealthy and they need to go see a GP somewhere. That's all I'm saying.
Though, as an American, do you not find it a little bit embarrassing that is your President of the United States is tweeting out videos like that?
Not embarrassing.
You don't think it undermines the office at all?
I don't at all.
There we go.
Right, one more clip to show you. Talking about defending journalists, I'll defend this journalist here. This is Oregon reporter Olivia Cleary, who's being praised tonight after staying composed while being harassed by a rowdy bunch of football fans during a live broadcast. So she's a broadcast journalist on television. A group of young men shouted and disrupted her live report at an Oregon State football game, and she was pretty much brought to tears. You can see the tear coming down her face. Take a look.
One second. The offense is looking a lot more versatile. They're getting their tight end and they're with more.
22 years old, by the way.
So the full torment she suffered was about 3 or 4 minutes. She was doing a live report, Tim, back to her newsroom on air about the results of this football match. And they were just constantly harassing her, jumping all over her, shouting in the background. And she was eventually, the poor young girl, I think she's probably early 20s, brought to tears.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna get into this realm, you need to make sure that you're prepared to face whatever comes at you. But I would say to those guys behind her, grow up. Lay off the sauce and represent yourself and your country and your pride very well.
Really well said. I mean, I've been in that situation as a female reporter myself. I've been spat on at a protest.
Oh, no way.
It's
What, live on air?
Live on air, and it's really intimidating. It's a nasty situation to be in. Shout out to the cameramen who've always had my back, and I think it's important to have a good team around you. But yeah, that's appalling.
What do you think? She seems like a young girl. I'm sure she's very talented. What should she have done in that situation? Did she do the right thing, just cracking on, although she was upset?
Honestly, having stood there, I'd have wanted to turn around and kick them in the nuts, frankly.
Well, live on air?
Live on air, yeah.
Well, there's been plenty of times where I've been, even in the Palestine protests in New York, where there was people, I shared a clip online, people shouting the most vile abuse in my face.
You really kept your calm.
I did. I mean, what else can I do? I can't grab them and nut them. But, I guess if I ever came under physical abuse, it's hard to say what I'd do. I think I'd have to react, even if I was live on air. But anyway, let's hope that never happens. Guys, thank you for your company tonight, Tim and Sarah, and hopefully you'll be back soon. Thank you, viewers at home, for your company as well. I'm back again tomorrow. Bev will be back next week. For the time being, I'm in the hot seat. gbnews.com/your say. Keep those comments coming in. I'll see you back tomorrow night. Sweet dreams. Have a pleasant day tomorrow, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Adios.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, Storm Benjamin has pushed in, and whilst it was named by the French Met Service, has nonetheless brought some heavy rain and strong winds to southern parts of the UK, and will continue to do so across eastern areas as we go through today. Rainfall totals are going to build up, could cause some problems, and watch out for gusts reaching perhaps up to 70 miles per hour in some exposed places. Further west, slightly drier but showery bursts of rain across eastern Scotland, much of England and Wales, and towards the far west of Scotland and Northern Ireland as well. Temperatures are going to be around or a little bit below average for the time of year, but when you factor in those strong winds, the cloud and the rain, it's going to feel pretty unpleasant. And as we go into this evening, still some showery bursts of rain, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland. Some of them could be heavy, could even be a bit of thunder mixed in. Drier and perhaps even clearer across many other parts of Scotland, albeit towards the west coast, a few showers here. Quite a showery theme through this evening across parts of Northern Ireland, and also showers piling into parts of Wales, southwest England. Still some strong blustery winds here, but it's still across far eastern areas where it's going to be wettest to end the day, and that's where we have those strongest winds as well. As we go overnight into Friday, now Storm Benjamin is clearing away into the North Sea, but exactly how quickly it clears away, that's still a bit uncertain. So I think we are going to see some rain fringing still into eastern parts of Scotland and showers coming into the west. Elsewhere, some dry, clear weather at times, and if you're sheltered from those strong winds, it could turn quite chilly through into tomorrow morning. And then through Friday itself, then watch out for some heavy rain across eastern parts of Scotland, as that could build up and lead to some impacts, and it could be a particularly wet and windy day here. Elsewhere, plenty of showers coming in from the west. Some of them could be heavy and they could be thundery at times too. Meanwhile, temperatures maybe up a degree or so compared to today, and a bit more sunshine on offer as well. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Now the grooming gangs inquiry is falling into even greater disrepute. We'll be joined by Ellie Ann Reynolds, one of the victims who was withdrawn from the inquiry, talking about a toxic and isolating atmosphere. That, in my view, is no way to treat victims. One in, one out. That's what the Prime Minister told us was going to happen. Thus far, it's been 11,000 in and 42 out. Bust that. It's now 41 out. One of them has come back already. You couldn't make some of this stuff up. And HS2, the extension to which has now been delayed by another 4 years. It could be 2040 before this is finished. Isn't it time we just cut and ran and said we're simply not capable of doing this? All of that and more after the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories. Another candidate to chair the grooming gangs inquiry has pulled out of the process. Jim Gamble was one of 2 people named in reports as a potential option to lead the inquiry. Another, Annie Hudson, withdrew yesterday. The Home Office says it's disappointed that both have pulled out. The Prime Minister also came under fire after 4 survivors quit the government's grooming gangs inquiry, accusing officials of creating a toxic environment and watering it down. Jim Gamble told the Home Secretary today the appointment process has been defined more by the vested interests of some, as well as political opportunism and point scoring.
I was totally unaware that they had to have their questions, proofed by someone. And in fact, I totally, I find that abhorrent. That shouldn't happen. These are people who are reflecting their lived experience. As I said to them at the time, if I had been successful, the first thing I would want to do is give them the opportunity to speak to me in groups if that's more comfortable.
GB News can confirm the number of migrants crossing the Channel has already surpassed the total for the whole of last year. 2 Border Force vessels arrived in Dover this afternoon, carrying around 150 people, taking this year's total to 36,886. That's 70 more than in all of last year. Senior security sources say it's deeply concerning for ministers, with more than 2 months still left in the year. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood reacted to the latest figures, saying the previous government left our borders in crisis and we're still living with the consequences. These figures are shameful, she says, and she says the British people deserve better. A migrant sent to France under the government's new one-in, one-out scheme has returned to the UK by small boat, saying he feared for his life in France. The man, now in immigration detention, claims he was trafficked and abused by smugglers and says he didn't feel safe after being sent back. Human rights groups say others removed under the scheme have also faced violence and exploitation, but the Home Office insists anyone who re-enters the UK illegally will be removed. And the King and Queen are in Rome for their state visit to meet Pope Leo as part of the 2025 Jubilee year. King Charles and Pope Leo are to become the first British monarch and pontiff to pray together at a church service since the Reformation in the 16th century. This historic moment will be in the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. The visit celebrates unity and hope, marking a historic moment for both the Church of England and the Catholic Church. Those are the latest headlines. For now, it's back to Faraj.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, in June, the Prime Minister was finally forced to tell us there would be a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. 4 months have gone by. Nothing has yet happened other than the preparations, and they're going wrong. Already, we have a senior former police officer, a senior former social worker who have been rejected. 4 members of the panel who were victims have withdrawn, and there's a big row with government going on. Here was the Minister responsible, Jess Phillips, in the House of Commons yesterday.
We must avoid delays, as was seen in the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, and are progressing as swiftly as thoroughness allows. Misinformation undermines this process. Allegations of intentional delay, lack of interest, or widening of the inquiry's scope and dilution are false. The inquiry will remain laser-focused on grooming gangs, as Baroness Casey recommended.
Well, I'm afraid the misinformation to which she refers are the criticisms of the victims that have left the panel. And one of those victims, Ellie Ann Reynolds, posted this at lunchtime today. Jess Phillips uncovered her true colours in the House of Commons yesterday, along with admitting that every single institution has failed us survivors over the years. Jess Phillips, it is in your best interest to stand down. You've proven you are unfit for your role. And I'm asking you at home, given the farce this has sunk to, do you think this inquiry, the way it's been set up, should continue, or should we try something different? Please tweet #Farage and GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I am joined down the line by Ellie Ann Reynolds, grooming gang survivor from Barrow up in Cumbria. Ellie Ann, thank you for coming on and joining us. Now, basically, this is a big row between you and Jess Phillips, and she's accusing you of misinformation. And I was interested, you know, a couple of things you said that interested me. One, you saw the panel bosses that were potentially being appointed as being a conflict of interest.
Absolutely. I think when the former employment statuses were as they were, how did they expect any survivor to sit on that panel and be confident that the inquiry was going to succeed with former police officers and former social workers? They are the very institutions that have failed us for many, many years.
Yeah, no, I understand your point. I mean, I happen to think that police officer is a good chap, but I get your point. You can't get them marking their own homework. But the more serious charge that you made was when you described the panel atmosphere, you know, as you're talking and getting ready for this to begin, you described the whole process as toxic, isolating and depressing. I'm really keen to get what you mean when you say those things.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very controlled environment when we had to draft questions and submit them 24 hours before. And, you know, we were given bullet points of what we should be asking and when we should be asking it. And we had to sit and think of our answers 24 hours prior. And we were just given lists all the time. We were told that we weren't allowed to seek support from any of the survivors on the panel, our own families and friends. We weren't allowed to talk about it. When the documents were actually sent over, that included the candidates for the chair, it was very password protected, secretive. You're not allowed to take photos. You're not allowed to share this information. It was all like, just, it's so secretive. It became unsafe. It became dangerous in that sense, because why were they tiptoeing and why were we tiptoeing around something that should have been public knowledge?
I mean, Ellie Ann, you know, I'm talking to you. I have met since 2014 when I first got to understand about this problem in Rotherham. I've met many of the victims, and there is anger amongst yourselves. There's also a broader anger amongst the public that this appears to have been covered up for a very, very long time. Is it, from what you saw leading up to this point, were you discouraged from discussing the ethnicity and religion of the perpetrators?
Absolutely. I mean, when it was suggested that we widened the range, it was automatically a dilution. But then when we can't discuss the ethnicity of our abusers and you almost feel wrong for doing that, it becomes really disheartening at that point, because I always say, like, people forget about how these abusers treat us and how we were receiving racial slurs off them. And you're almost like, you feel like you're in the wrong for saying my abuser's a Muslim Pakistani, my abuser's a Bangladeshi. You shouldn't have to walk on eggshells around where your abuser comes from.
No, quite right. Final thought from you, Ellie Ann. You feel still, you said it at midday, you still feel Jess Phillips is the wrong person for the safeguarding ministry?
Yeah, I think she's unfit for a role. I think the way that she conducted herself yesterday in the House of Commons was embarrassing. It was disgusting. She showed a lot of anger and aggressive behaviour towards the survivors. And my question is, are you angry because you were caught out in a cover-up that's no longer successful? We've exposed that. Because I don't think that she's angry that, you know, everything else that's going on. I think that she's embarrassed herself, and I think that the way that she's held herself, people need to question if she's the right person that liaises with survivors.
Eliane Reynolds, thank you for joining us live here on GB News. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Indeed. Well, Maurice Glasman joins me along with Kwasi Kwarteng. A very articulate woman.
Right.
The anger is simmering. She's in control.
Yeah.
She's very in control. But can you see the argument she's making?
Oh, I totally see the argument she's making. And Eliane, if you're watching, I'm completely with you. I mean, totally with you and all the girls who were sexually abused by Pakistani rape gangs. You know, Nigel, we've talked about, I want to see a televised show trial. I actually think that we need an exorcism of this wickedness. And who needs to go down? The rapists and everybody who covered it up, including the police, including the social workers, including the Conservative and Labour councillors, including cabinet ministers who shuffled it to one side. We've got to get this poison out our bloodstream. This is disgusting. Young girls were systematically raped and nothing was done.
Maurice,
and Nigel, we've been on this, but this has
Maurice,
got to
it
go
is
straight.
Utterly shameful.
It's disgusting.
In every way.
Every way.
And I tell you what, and Kwasi, it isn't just doing damage in this country. No. The world's looking at this.
Yeah, look, I think, and the point she made very powerfully was what actually disturbed me even more. I mean, the abuse was horrific, but you'd expect at some point, you know, responsible people in government, responsible people, dare I say, in the civil service, would come together to try and flush out the truth.
Not so.
And yeah, that's what amazed me. I mean, I've sat on House of Commons committees for years, and it sounded to me how she described the way that committee that was very much curated in the way that a House of Commons committee can be curated.
Yeah.
You know, the officials,
and that's the thinking.
That's the thinking. That's exactly.
And
these are the questions.
And that's the thinking in the establishment that led to the failure in the first place.
That's right. So
that's her anger.
Yeah, that surprised me because I mean, I lived that life.
I'm afraid that's true.
And I saw that.
But I wonder whether there's something a little bit more political in Labour effectively softballing on this and doing everything they can to push the results of the inquiry beyond the next general election. Later on, yesterday, Jess Phillips behaved in this manner in response to a question from a fellow MP.
But the fact of the matter is that there is absolutely no council in this country who will tell this inquiry where it can and cannot go. I have said that 1,000,000 times from this dispatch box, and yet the same thing gets peddled again and again.
Yeah. Now, I admit I could be misreading this, but I think this is very, very political. Let's have a look at Jess Phillips' constituency. Now, you'll see that her majority at the last election was 693 in a constituency with a 43% Muslim population. We can look at another senior Labour figure. We can look, I think, at Wes Streeting's numbers next. And with Wes Streeting, you will see he was elected with a tiny majority of 500, and it is likely, given the change in demographics, that Gaza independents or the hard left are going to put Streeting in a difficult position. It also affects Shabana Mahmood, who is, of course, the Home Secretary. And once again, she was elected. All right, it's a bigger majority, but still you can see there is a growing ethnic, there is a growing sectarian vote in this country. And Maurice, I have to say this to you, that it would suit this Labour government.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it sounds very cynical from me, but it would suit this Labour government for this inquiry to stretch out for years and not to come to any conclusions for fear that they're seen to attack this community whose votes they need.
And I'm saying to you that that's just straightforward political logic. You can understand that. But what I do say to you, Nigel, and I've said it before, of all the three you were looking at there's one of them who wants to do it immediately, who wants to get this going. So I also say to Eliane, and I'm urging it politically inside Labour, Shabana Mahmood is not afraid of losing her seat if that means that this Pakistani rape gang inquiry is shelved. She wants to do it pronto. I think she should be given full responsibility for this inquiry. You know, that it should go through that.
Should this inquiry continue, or do we need to start a different procedure?
Well, I think we've got to put a 6-month deadline on this. Precisely
not years.
No, 6 months. No, 6 months to complete. I'm talking about
But the problem with the committee now is that, you know, people have left. They can't work out who the chair is.
Reconstitute.
So even if it's reconstituted, there's a big cloud over its authority.
Put it under the authority of Shabana Mahmood. She needs to chair it, and it needs to be public.
No, but you can't have a government minister. You can't have, as Nigel said, they can't mark their own homework.
There's got to be political leadership on this just to hurry it up.
So the point about Jess Phillips, and I know Jess Phillips, I quite respected her, but she's a very emotional politician. She's got a very thin majority.
Well, we just saw that.
We saw that. And she, but Maurice, she was the one who said we shouldn't have an inquiry in the first place.
Exactly.
So the idea that she is now the person responsible for that,
and she also,
crazy.
By the way, she also says that her comments weren't directed at the victims. But if you look at what she said and what the criticism of the victims were, I mean, I just, I put her point of view for balance.
She takes everything personally, and she's made it very personal, and she's very aggressive.
Completely inappropriate. Exactly. So I want to say to you, there is actually no issue bigger than this right now. This has got to be right at the centre of our politics. As a nation...
Because of the enormity...
We need to
morally of what it is.
Exactly. It's a disgusting, evil, wicked, satanic thing, is what I'm saying. The systematic rape of young girls
I know.
By Pakistani men is wicked and evil. Now, we've got to be... We don't want the mob, and this is what we will get, because people will be vigilanteing. What we need is a public trial.
Well, Maurice,
and what's clear is that
let me make a suggestion. Let me make a suggestion. Last night, we had Ranel, Joe Wardner on the panel. He made a very interesting point, that all these public inquiries go on for years. The COVID one's not even over.
That's right.
Right? We sort of almost barely noticed that Boris Johnson was on it yesterday. Right. He made a point, after the banking collapse in 2008, and the tens of billions of British taxpayers' money that was ploughed in to prop up the banks, that a banking commission was held in Parliament. It actually subpoenaed Fred the Shred. Could this not be done in Parliament? With everything televised, everything live?
Perfect. This is what it's got to be. Parliament's got to take control.
Yes.
This has got to be completely agreed.
But you and I know. But you and I... But listen, I mean, you and I know...
Oh, yeah. By the way, the Speaker in the Lords is a really good man. I mean, he would be perfect.
But it's obvious. But you know what's happened. The government were dragged kicking and screaming to the point where they had to have an inquiry. I think Nigel makes a fair point about the vulnerability of a lot of these MPs, prominent people.
I sound cynical, but I think I'm right.
But MPs always think about their majorities. Regardless of what else is going on, they will always be thinking about their majorities.
And this is what I'm saying to you, Kwasi. I'm just putting it on the line in front of your viewers and to you, and I've talked to Nigel. I do believe that Shabana Mahmood has the integrity to really push this and do this.
Well, do you know something, Maurice? If she rises above this absolute B mess, because that's what it is right now.
But you and I know that she's not...
With people struggling, Kwasi, people struggling to believe what the